Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome back to All for United's tactical preview. I'm joined as ever by Stu. Abdul should be here as well, but we're also joined by a special guest this week. We're delighted to be joined by Ninad. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, James. All good. We're glad to be back here with you guys on the show. And yeah, looking forward to today's discussion on West Ham.
Yes, it's great to have you on. Me and Stu are hoping you can do what Abdul does and just make us look good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do my best.
Saying that, we've got a lot of faith in Ninad. If you haven't already, check out his Twitter. There's some really, really good sort of analytical stuff going on there. So if you're a fan of the stats and the tactical side of the game, then he's definitely one to follow. But we'll get straight into it. Just keep looking down to see if Abdul's here. He's not yet, so we'll get into it. Stu, I'll come to you. A good win yesterday against Brentford. You know, what was your reaction to the game in general, I suppose?
Yeah, it was to be expected.
Hi, guys,
Hi, Abdul. You're right.
Abdul, you're right.
Good.
It was to be expected. Look, I think we all knew.
Sorry, 1 second. I can't hear you guys properly, so I'll just put my headset on.
I think we knew what to expect. I think we knew what to expect. What Brentford were going to do. They were going to come at us. Thomas Frank was quite frank in his post-match interview, wasn't he? Sorry, excuse that. That was abysmal. But he was in terms of what he perceived to be the style of play and how the first half went. And I think it'd be hard to argue with him whether or not you agreed with his phrase and how he put it or articulated it. He was probably a bit over the top. But the first half kind of went to plan for Brentford. Second half, there was more, what I could see, a more of a cohesive playing style for Manchester United, certainly with McTominay and Fred. I thought they covered each other quite well in the second half. I obviously don't know what was said in the at half time, but obviously the first time they kind of reverted to the old McFred type, so to speak. And I'll probably get crucified for this, but I thought Maguire looked pretty good and solidified us when he came on. There's a lot of talk about Maguire at the moment not being the player he was, etc., etc., etc. Me and Abdul have had many a discussion that we feel that Maguire is, all right, he's not played so well this season, but he's far better than what people are trying to make him out. So, look, skating over it, because I think at this point in time, performances don't necessarily matter. It's all about the 3 points. And, we want to see attacking football. We want to see bright football. It was never going to be easy for Rangnick to come in and put a style of play onto the players. We all know the players are quite lazy when they want to be and are electric when they want to be. We are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, I'm afraid, with our squad. There appeared to be one or two players that, I think understood after the first half that their places are in jeopardy. I think Rashford is one of those. People were waxing lyrical about Alanga last night. I thought he was great, but this is another one. Just relax, leave the kid alone. Just there'll be cries for him to play against West Ham at the weekend. We'll touch on this. And so all in all, 3 points was important to me. The performance was much better in the second half. Does it give us any momentum for West Ham? Not really. It's just another game for us, and we have to look at it as another game. So, you're muted.
Muted myself. I've completely lost my way now. That's throwing me right off. I'll come to you, Abdul. Still not a vintage Manchester United performance by any means. But me and Stu were talking about this before the show. Do you feel like, the positives that we can take, the goals, that it seemed pretty free-flowing, the football at times? Scott McTominay himself had a very good performance. Do you think it sort of falls into that category of when we play Leeds, where it felt like in the second half, Brentford were really playing to our strengths rather than us exploiting their weaknesses, if that makes sense? Do you agree with that? And, were there any other positives to take from last night?
I think we exploited their weakness by having runners in behind their back three because when you run at them, they're not very good. We defended the set piece as well, because if you've really noticed, they were really trying to hammer crosses in the box as much as possible to get those chances. And Varane and Lindelof really stood to the challenge yesterday. Like in possession, it was much better than what we've seen before, other than the first half. The first half was abysmal. But like in the second half, in possession, we were much better than I thought, considering the players that were on the field. We still reverted back to the 4-2-3-1 to be better, because the 4-3-3 didn't work. Like McTominay was overrun yesterday in the first half. And McTominay improved under Rangnick a little bit in possession, which is a good sign. But then again, he's still using the qualities we've known about him, which is he's able to carry the ball and move forward and drive. He's able to shrug people off of him. Like McTominay is the type of player that will win his physical duels. You know, he's strong. He has a very physical upper body, so he will win those. The question I've been with McTominay has always been his positioning and recognizing the space with passes when he needs it. And the biggest one of them all, which is receiving when he's in deep positions. So McTominay in the middle third, in the final third, you see a lot better version of McTominay than if you see a McTominay around his box, you know, receiving from the center backs. So with the help of Fred in the second half, when he drove, we weren't completely open, and he felt safe about it. So we've seen a better version of him. He was involved in most of the goals, which was really good to see from him. Would I take this as a template? I still think we have some issues when we're in the final third and we're controlling the ball. Like, we're not consistently creating chances by exploiting low blocks, you know? Like, it still appears haphazardly, you know? It's like it's not a constant thing we keep on doing, you know? There's no one method that we keep on trying to exploit the space. So I think there was an instance where in the first half where we had possession, we shifted their block to the left-hand side, and then we attempted a switch very quickly. And then Dalot found himself in a lot of space because Brentford weren't able to recover quickly. But he took a swing at it from very far away. Like, if you drove and tried to combine with Greenwood, they would have had a decent chance. But he took a shot from outside the box. So, like, it's still, there's good signs, but there's still, you know, other signs to worry about, because we still feel shaky when we want to defend our own box and withdraw deep. Yeah, and there are moments where still we get overrun in the midfield. So yeah,
there's certainly a lot of those sort of moments where it felt a bit nervy, especially running back to our own goal. But I wanted to ask you this, Ninad, going back to what Abdul said about the formation. Obviously, we started with more of a 4-3-3, then we went to a 4-2-3-1 almost, and I think Fernandez was exceptional when he got closer to Ronaldo. He was able to link up with the forward players more. When in the first half, he was dropping quite deep. So obviously, it's a long-winded question, but I'm getting onto the point eventually. Obviously, Rangnick came in and tried to implement this 4-2-2-2. Now, given that we've not seen it in a number of games now, we've actually arguably taken an upturn in performances. Not much of one, understandably, but you know, do you think this is the death of Rangnick trying that 4-2-2-2? Do you think it's a failed experiment? And by reverting back to this 4-2-3-1 that we played with last year, do you think it could restrict us moving forward the same way it did last season in terms of, you know, breaking down low blocks and that sort of thing? So basically, in a nutshell, is it a positive that we're moving back to a 4-2-3-1? And do you think that could hinder us going forward?
Okay, so I think the answer to this question is probably two-sided. One side is that while we have had some success with the 4-2-2-2, the kind of setup that Rangnick favors, I remember the first couple of games, there were some promising signs. There was some decent structure in the final third in terms of the pressing, in terms of the intensity that we were doing it in, but we just weren't sustaining it. And I think that's been the issue with that sort of system and that sort of structure, is that United aren't able to sort of sustain the new kind of setup and the new kind of ideology that Rangnick is trying to bring to the table, which is why they're having to fall back to, as you said, James, 4-2-3-1, which is something that the players are far more familiar with, and which is something that they are sort of, trying to bring results with. And, for both of those systems, I think it's far too early to say which one is the best one to go forward with, because I think that whilst Rangnick feels, that the 4-2-3-1 is more of a safer option to fall back on, ideally, I think going forward, Rangnick is a man that he will stick to his principles. He wants to play his team in a certain manner. So I think it is more likely that eventually going forward, we will see the team morph back into the kind of shape that he prefers, which is that 4-2-2-2. Eventually, when he gets the kind of profiles that he wants, two midfielders that sort of complement each other. I think in recent weeks now, there's been enough evidence to suggest that Fred and McTominay both are not holding midfielders, and they are both excellent when they are given the space to exploit teams on the counter attack, when McTominay is given space to drive into, when Fred is given the freedom to go forward and unlock defenses in the final third, and maybe challenge defenders between the lines. So that is the sort of thing that both of those players are good at. They are not excellent at being defensive midfielders. Now, why they worked for us in the 4-2-3-1 is because they sort of complemented each other's strengths. And while at that moment we were playing in sort of a low block, now we're trying to play higher up the pitch. We're trying to press higher up the pitch. We're trying to play the game in the opponent's half. So these are things that I think they will take time for the players to learn and for the manager to implement. But going forward, I do hope that we sort of stick with the 4-2-2-2, and eventually, whenever the new manager does come in, I think there is a conversation there to be had between him and Rangnick, and what they prefer to go with going forward. But yeah, another my long-winded way of saying the answer is that 4-2-2-2 should be the way to going forward, and that ultimately I think Rangnick will try to go in that direction.
Just adding on what Ninad said, I think he's right. But the 4-2-2 is a more possession-based game, and that's our biggest issue. Me and Abdel spoke about this a long time. Quite a few times actually. We don't have the players that can play this possession-based football, and we desperately need them. Well, we do, but for whatever reason, he doesn't get a shout. And I'm not going to go into why, whens, and all that kind of nonsense. But when you actually look at a 4-2-2, it's a 4-4-2 anyway, or a 4-3-3. You can morph into any system. I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago. Oh, maybe we should try 4-1-4-1. It's all a load of horse shit, really, because the bottom line is when you're out of possession, you automatically, or you should automatically migrate to a 4-4-2 to cut the play off, or even a 4-5-1. It doesn't really matter, but some kind of formation. When you're moving forward, how many times do you see us actually go in the formation that we're supposed to be playing? You never do, because the game gets so fragmented. All formations are there. It's purely about personnel. Formations wise, it's purely about personnel, and whether or not we played a 4-2-3-1 to start with, or a 4-3-3 to start with, or a 4-1-4-1 to start with, it's kind of an irrelevance, really. It's how you use the ball. It's how you utilize the personnel, how you utilize the space, and how you use the ball. And it's a source of frustration, isn't it, Abdel, for me and you, pal? We talk about it all the time, about the use of the ball. So, and that's ultimately what he's got to consider, and what the new manager's got to consider moving forward, and what the board have got to do in terms of personnel changes.
I think the biggest problem we faced is that like prior to Ollie leaving, we had a really horrendous run. Like it was really, really, really bad, and that shot the confidence so low that even the things that they were used to doing, they have doubts about it. You know what I mean? Like they're not sure should they do this or should they not do this or whatever. Because if you really go back to last season, the 4-2-2-2, we kind of played it, even though it was 4-2-3-1 on paper. You know, when Pogba was on the left, most of the times that when Pogba played on the left, he was central with Fernandes, right? And the striker and the person who played on the right hand side were actually two central forwards, really. So it's kind of like a box of, you know, 4 midfielders and then a 2 forward. So while there were advantages under Oli that we played multiple shapes and systems, which they gotten used to over the time, is just that horrendous runner really shook their confidence in their own abilities that they're still recovering from, you know. I don't think that the 4-2-2-2 doesn't suit us. I think it will suit us. It just needs the right players, you know. Like playing Sancho in a very unfamiliar position for himself with Fernandes in the central wasn't like, I mean, he's not bad. He can do it. Sancho is very multifunctional. He can, but it's just he's not used to it, you know. And then depending on who the two up front were, their movement might not be the best as well. So, because Rangnick and whoever plays the 4-2-2-2, right? They concentrate on winning possession high up centrally, right? Yeah. So you need the front 4 to be extremely hard workers, and like it depends on who you play. I mean, if you're gonna play Greenwood and Ronaldo, and no knock on them, but I'm just saying they're not pressers in the sense of, you know, extreme hardcore pressing. And not only that, it's just they're not very smart at it, you know. So they leave their angles open. They leave their, like, it's not the best. Like that's why we did it only for like 30 minutes. That was that hardcore pressing against Crystal Palace, and we haven't seen it since then.
That's right. Yeah.
And so yeah, it just needs the right player. So for example, for me, if Pogba comes back and he plays next to Fernandes in those two behind the 2 forwards, then you have a lot of creation and you have on-ball quality, right? And then if Shaw comes back instead of Telles, you have also in possession and progression from the left-hand side. And also you don't, because it's a 2-2-2, you don't have this clogging of the left-hand side that happens when we play the 4-2-3-1. Because when you play Rashford on the left and then you play Shaw and then you play Pogba or Fernandes, centrally, and then you play Cristiano Ronaldo up front, then you have like these 5-6 players that are all want to lean to the left and unbalance the team completely, you know? So it just depends on who you pick really in the formation. That's all I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Ninad, I'll bring it back to you just to round this off. We have a question that's come in saying, do you think the 4-2-2-2 will work without a designated ball playing DM? Now, I think we've seen the answer to this season. So I'll slightly tweak it in the sense of, is the problem that our midfielders, our holding midfielders, aren't particular ball players in that sense? We're not getting that progression from deep, or is it the fact that they're not naturally defensive midfielders, in that neither of them are that great at holding position and offering that solid base? Which way do you think it goes both ways?
James, you've answered the question yourself. It's both of those things, really. I think ultimately the simplest way to answer that question is that both of those players are not defensive midfielders. Both of them don't have the greatest passing range. I think Fred is slightly better in terms of the kind of passing range that you want from a ball playing midfielder. But ultimately they're not ideal for that role. They're not built for that role. Both of them have different strengths, and those strengths are better exhibited in systems that allow them to sort of go further up the pitch and play in a more open environment, right?
Transition into space.
So, you know, I don't think the 4-2-2-2 will work without a designated defensive midfielder.
You need a disciplined player in there, Ninad. You're absolutely right. You need a disciplined player. You need somebody who's willing to play the centre circle and then slightly to the left and slightly to the right of it. I've said it before, the greatest exponent ever of doing that was Jan Molby. He would just trot around like a peacock. But yes, he had a greater range of passing, well, I accept all of that. But he could do the short passing, he could get a tackle in, he could win a header. You just need somebody who would be disciplined to just screen and cover the back four, win the ball back, be able to drop it 10 yards or be able to drop it 2 or 3 yards and then walk into space. That's what the ideal defensive midfielder would be. So Hel's pretty much right in what she's saying. And we're also right in saying we don't have those because, as we've already identified, and we've identified on plenty of times, McTominay and Fred are a better eights. Now, you could argue that Matic can hold, can be disciplined. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't have any of our three in there. I've gone on record as saying it before, and I'll do it again. I would actually.
It's not about he can't hold. You saw what happened to him at Aston Villa. He just completely ran out of steam. Like
that's right.
Matt got 20 years older by the 70th minute.
Step aside, honestly, it's time.
He was tired, and we got tired.
I think we got tired watching him, didn't we? No, look,
genuinely makes me sad the way he's trying to catch up with the pace of how quick midfield works nowadays, as opposed to his prime. I would. It would be amazing if we had Matic when he was 10 years younger, but he isn't. And asking him to play that sort of role works to a certain extent. But when you ask him to do more in terms of the physical side of the game, ask him to cover more ground, ask him to be a little bit quicker, just that snap quicker to making those interceptions, pressurizing and counter-pressing opponents, it just doesn't happen. Not that he can't do it. It's just that, his legs are not, his legs are just not there anymore.
But he hasn't. What he hasn't done, which I'm absolutely, perplexed by, he's not adjusted his game to that. He's not made those adjustments that you need to do at the highest level to make sure you can continue to play. And Fernandinho, is a great example of that at City. He completely changed his game. Fabinho's done it with Liverpool. Completely changed his game the way that he's done it. Jordan Henderson's done the same. They've looked at their abilities and inabilities and have molded their game around what they're very, very, very good at and moved away from what they're not good at. And unfortunately, for whatever, Matic hasn't recognised that or hasn't done anything about it. I don't know why, but anyway.
But remember, like last time we said that, yes, Fernandinho sometimes comes in and plays with City, but City, all of them are ball players. So they kind of protect him, And I told you about the structure being a little bit tighter. So the fullbacks, when they go into midfield for City, they're kind of around, Fernandinho. So he makes easy passes all the time. They're not really exposed to transitions like us, right? Because of the center backs, because of Ederson, because of how the fullbacks are tucked into midfield, how the eights, positions themselves between the lines, so their structure is a little bit more tight than us. We're loose, so Matic has to cover more space, and not only that, he receives bad passes a lot more than Fernandinho receives bad passes.
I must admit, I can play City's team.
So exactly, like even if you bring in like Scholes right now, 45 years old, 46, I don't know how old is he. Put him, he'll be the most amazing player ever. He'll be prime Scholes because he's protected, So that's unfortunate for Matic. Unfortunate that our system and the players around him don't mitigate his weakness. In fact, it exposes it even further, So that's the problem with Matic at the moment. Like, I wish we had two very secure, very confident fullbacks in progression around Matic, with also two center backs that are very secure, very competent in progression behind Matic. Matic would look a different player when those four with this quartet around him. But we just don't have that.
Yeah, fair enough. I was getting lost a bit then. I was sort of like engrossed in the conversation, but we're back on track.
Sorry.
I think
that was my fault for going off.
No.
So sorry, guys.
Again, I'm just completely lost. Yes, looking forward, Stu. I'll come to you. That's where I was going.
Yes.
Looking forward to West Ham. The one question I'll ask you is, do you change a winning team?
I don't think he will at all. But I think that we're going to have major issues on the weekend. The way that West Ham are playing at the minute, and they've got some pivotal players: Jarrod Bowen, Declan Rice, Antonio if he's fit and he plays, Fornells, Souček, Benrahma. I could go on forever. They're a very, very strong 11. Fabianski on his day is as good as it gets in the Premier League on his day. Now, if he's on a bad day, he's brilliant for us because we'll just score 5 or 6. But on his day, he's as good as anyone in the Premier League. I think he'll stay with the winning side. I think we perhaps need to stay with the winning side. I'm kind of on the fence, and I don't know what the guys think, whether or not he'll bring Maguire back in. I don't think he'll start Pogba, but I'm wondering whether he'll actually bring Maguire back in. I don't know what the guys think on that one, but we are going to have major, major problems because don't forget, if we match them up on a 4-2-3-1, because that's what they play, Souček and Rice are absolutely dynamite at the minute, but Bowen is the real key element. He's an absolute live wire. He plays on the right of their three behind Antonio, but he doesn't stay on the right. He will drift. Benrahma will drift. Fornells will drift. Fornells are an excellent spotter of a pass, brilliant on the ball. But Bowen at the minute's on a hot streak of goals. So I think it's going to be an exceptional game, but we'll need to be on our game. But I think the only change I can see is probably Maguire. But I don't know what the lads think on that one.
It's probably smart given the physicality of that West Ham team. We saw our centre back struggled often with Ivan Toney, so maybe it is time to.
Well, you've got to bear in mind. You've got to bear in mind that the three that play behind Antonio were brilliant on the ball. All three of them are excellent. They can take the ball tight to feet. They can take it in tight areas. They can move it with a first-time pass. They're strong. All three of them are strong. All three of them are direct. You've got Declan Rice. Souček will score a goal. He's quite an elegant player. Souček is as well. He's got quite a nasty streak in him. My worry is we don't have that nasty streak in us. I've spoken about this on a few times. We won't put that tackle in that we will need to do to, I think, disrupt their play. If we can't disrupt their play, disrupt Rice, disrupt Souček, disrupt Bowen, get under their skin early doors, I think it's going to be a very, very long afternoon for us.
Fair enough. Abdul, I'll come to you then. Obviously, it feels like we have this conversation sort of every other week, but the Brentford game, we got away with it because it was so open. It was so easy for us to transition the ball forward. But West Ham's not going to be like that at all. They're very, very solid defensively. So how important is it that we don't turn up? Well, that we don't turn up at Old Trafford with 3 goal scorers in the front line? Because surely it's not going to end well as it did against Brentford. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, so yesterday I sent out a tweet. I was like, I put on Martial, and I think I said I would take out Alenga, but not because Alenga was playing bad, because we just needed someone who would hold the ball more. And then a few minutes later, he scored, and then we scored a second and a third, and people were like, it's a good thing you're not a manager. I'm like, well, I don't want to be a manager anyway. But the thing is about having 3 shooters at the front. Like Alanga, the thing is about that he has over Rashford and has over Greenwood and has over, well, he doesn't have over Cristiano, but like in the sense of the runs he makes. The runs he makes are very clever for a young kid. Like they're very, very clever, and he's a workhorse. I actually am starting to think that Alanga is becoming more and more the Daniel James replacement, because he was really working hard to show his qualities. But what I was saying before is that we need more on-ball quality. Like if you saw the team yesterday, the team lineup, I really was scared we'd lose this game because we just didn't have ball players in the team. We had runners, we had shooters, but that's it. And it was evident with the way that whenever we came out from the back, we never did. De Gea hoofed the ball all the time. You know, like he attempted, I think, like 20 long balls, and he lost like majority of them anyway. And then we won the ball back in the middle third, and then we progressed from there. Because like Rangnick is not big on, you know, slick build up and moving the ball and exploiting the team like that. He's not big on that. But because you didn't have Shaw, because you didn't have Maguire, there's no progression. So you had to go long, you know, all the time. So the idea of why I was saying we don't need more shooters, like just have one or two max, is that we need more ball players so we can control possession. There's having possession and there's controlling possession. Like we sometimes have possession for the sake of having it because we're just playing it around the middle for no reason. Like if you check yesterday, we had more possession than Brentford, yes, but most of our possession was in the middle third, not even in their third. That we ended the game with more possession in our third than we've had in Brentford's third. You know, Brentford had more possession in our third. Like Brentford controlled possession more in our own defensive third than we've controlled possession in Brentford's own defensive third. And why? Because we had three shooters. You know, one of them was a smart runner, sure, and Greenwood Marcus was a good runner from the right when he came on. Like I said last time, I've said Marcus makes a lot more runs from the right-hand side than he makes from the left because he can't cut in and shoot. So he doesn't want to receive the feet as much when he's coming from the right. So we exploited the space they've left behind, and then we scored our goals. But did we control possession and break them down? Like maybe you can pass off the goal for Alanga and Fred as breaking the low block down and scoring a goal. Maybe
but that was one in 95 minutes, wasn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, but that's like a one and it's a maybe. It's debatable, you know.
Yeah.
So and this is why we need more players that control possession, that don't lose the ball easily. You know what I mean? That can exploit space, like a Sancho, like a Martial. Like even though Martial doesn't do the off ball runs like a striker, but he keeps the ball well. You know, he's safe on the ball.
The only reason I thought he might stay with Alanga is because you can get at their fullbacks quite comfortably. You can get at Cresswell in. Is it Soufal? Yeah. It is Soufal, isn't it? Yeah, you can get at both their fullbacks. So that's the only reason I thought he might keep Alanga in. But I actually take your point. I think you're absolutely spot on. I would advocate.
Like Alanga took advantage of what Ronaldo did yesterday. So Ronaldo likes to come in close to take the ball to feet all the time, right? And because he's Ronaldo, someone will follow him just to keep an eye on him. Alanga took advantage of that and made that run. You know, right. But if you actually saw what Ronaldo did, he was like expecting Fred to pass to him to feet, like, give me the ball, I will do something, you know? So Alanga took advantage of that. And luckily for us that Fred saw Alanga's run, not Ronaldo asking for the ball to feet. So, and he passed it to Alanga. So he's a very smart kid. Like, I think, but he needs to keep developing that. Because Rashford used to do that. If you remember Rashford when he broke out from the academy in 2016, the first few matches where he scored goals against Arsenal, like scored goals against Man City and stuff like that, Rashford, some of his goals were in the goal mouth, you know, mouth of the goal, because he used to make those runs. But then he didn't work on that as much.
No,
he worked on his dribbling, he worked on cutting in and shooting. So he didn't develop those runs. He kind of lost it a little bit. Like, when was the last time you saw Rashford score a goal from the back post? Because he made a run from the back post, you know?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, so these are the things that I hope Alanga doesn't lose. I hope he continues to develop and make it his strength, you know? So, yeah. We had a conversation about this and development of players at United last time.
We did. We did go over old ground because the problem is these are the blatant problems that we've got. That's, you know, we identified them. It's just one way. Sorry, Nina, go for it, pal.
Did I take Ninad's turn? I did not even know. I'm so sorry.
No, you didn't. Don't worry.
I'm just worried that because you know what me and you were like. We'll go backwards and forwards.
Don't worry about it. It's always the fact.
Okay.
Ninad's
shut
getting
up
first-hand experience as to what I go through every episode. Just sit and listen. Good job. You're right most of the time. But I will come to you, Ninad. Obviously, we know West Ham are a good team. They're a couple of points ahead of us. I think they're 6 points ahead of us, and we've got a game in hand on them. So, they're very much a top four rival. So, have you picked out anything in their game that they could really exploit from us that we really need to be careful of? Because we know this United squad is far from perfect.
I mean, there's a few things. I think obviously the guys have spoken about, Stu especially spoken about Antonio and Fornals and the kind of players that West Ham have. There's a lot of quality there. They are a very, very dangerous team if you give them space to run into. So I think controlling the game will be really, really crucial in this instance, because somehow Declan Rice has added things to his game that have made him an even better player as opposed to last year. I think there was a lot of debate last year as to, is Declan Rice really good? But is he though? But this year, I think the consensus is that he is genuinely a very, very good defender. Sorry, a very, very good midfielder, and someone who is not just someone who is a deep lying center midfielder, but also someone who excels at progressing with the ball. We've seen some of the runs that he's made. My God, it's I think I remember one of the goals that he set up for. He didn't set up, but the run that he made before setting up, I think Lanzini it was, before for one of his goals against Crystal Palace, if I'm not mistaken. It was beautiful. And Declan Rice is a player that you have to look out for. Souček, again, Stu highlighted him. Souček is someone you have to keep an eye out for when if he does feature. It's doubtful, but it's looking likely that he will feature, because I think he had COVID. He's suffering from COVID and he's returning to the team. In his absence, they've had Lanzini in that role. He's been sort of their Modric for their in this gap, and he's been exceptional again. And there's quite a few pieces. Jared Bowen has again struck up form. Be interesting to see how Telesh deals with his threat coming inside. We know defending is not Telesh's biggest strength, so I think it'll be really, really crucial for whoever steps in. If Maguire does come back in, it'll be really crucial for Maguire to keep an eye on Bowen and his movements in the inside channel, coming into the half spaces, and just there's multiple ways that West Ham can threaten us, be it from their overlapping fullbacks, deliveries from Cresswell or Soufal, pressing on the front foot from Antonio, Fornals, Bowen. Those three are workhorses. They will work their socks off for the team. And Antonio is he's just a different type of forward, isn't he? He challenges you and challenges your defenders in a multitude of ways, be it on the ground in your physical duels or running in behind. He's always giving you something to think about and keeping you on your feet. So yeah, there's quite a few things to think about coming into this game, and hopefully we can control it and turn it to our advantage. We'll have to see.
I think one area we can get at them is they play quite a high line, don't they? Yeah. For some reason, which has always amazed me. But Moyes never really played a high line. Was at Everton, he used to play quite a deep line. He was more of a defensive unit with Everton. Forget everything else that went after that. But now, since he's found his feet again, he's become a very more attack-minded coach. But he's got the players that we've spoken that we don't have that fit his system. I'm not saying they're better players than ours individually, but they fit the system better. And Souček and Declan Rice, you're absolutely right. One will sit and one will gracefully go forward. I mean, I was watching Rice the other day, and he's got the ability right now to win the ball and carry it 25 yards and get around the player and make something happen. And if he doesn't do that, Souček will do it. And then you've got Fornals who will quite easily drop deep in to receive the ball and then play it out to a willing runner, which is Bowen, and a willing runner, which is Benrahma. That's your problem. And that's where we've got to really suffocate them. We've got to suffocate that. We've got to almost put a shroud around it, because if we don't, we're going to be in major, major issues. And of course, once even if you get that under control, you've still got that bulldozer, which is Antonio. And the problem with Antonio is you can liken him. I'm not saying he is, but you can liken him in his physical strength and his power to an Adama Traore and stuff like that. But he's like 10 times more skillful. He's like 10 times more. His thought process is quicker than most centre forwards. He's unbelievable, really. And
he's smarter in the way he exploits space than Adama Traore.
And that's why I think potentially Maguire should come back in, because I think Varane and Lindelof, I think as a partnership they're too weak. There's no disrespect to both players, but they're not strong enough to deal with somebody like that. With De Gea, who we know is quite a timid goalkeeper, brilliant at shot stopping, but a timid goalkeeper. Antonio he was rubbing his hands together. So we need Maguire back. I know he's had a rib injury. People were saying he's been dropped. Look, if you've got a rib injury, you can't fix a rib injury. It's got to heal naturally. It's a nasty injury to have. I've had a couple of those myself. So I just hope he's going to have to take a cortisone injection or whatever and grit his teeth, because I think we'll need Maguire the weekend. But no, sorry, I just wanted to say, you're absolutely right about Rice. Phenomenal turnaround. I mean, me and Abdel last season weren't 100% convinced, were we? Spoke on a couple of occasions.
The consensus around Declan and Rice was he's always been good defensively and good at carrying the ball. But the question mark around him was how good is his passing quality, and he's improved that a lot. Like, if you try to evaluate a lot of the midfielders in the top 5 leagues, you'll always see that Declan Rice tops the charts when it comes to defensive work or progressive carrying. But when you try to look at him in the passes that he makes, the type of passes he makes, it's not really progressive in that sense. And he wasn't, high on those scales. But I think he improved that a lot. And also he improved the way he exploits space a lot this season. And that's why his value is really, really rising. He's becoming a really, really good midfielder.
Very intelligent,
And just to sort of I guess complement both of your points is that Stu, you're absolutely right. They've got willing runners, and that's something that our team is lacking. Is that West Ham, even if the team is struggling to break down something, players around the pitch will always be running off the ball. You will not see Declan Rice restricting himself to the central part of the pitch. You will see him bomb down the wings if he has to. You will see him run the channels if he has to. You will see Bowen and Soufal, Cresswell, all of these players exploiting different parts of the pitch. They are willing runners. That's the cohesion of the team, isn't it? That's come together, and it's a huge credit to David Moyes, isn't it? Because you see a lot of the managers that belong to his time, and that he's come from a different era.
He has,
And he's, to his credit, he's improved magnificently. He's progressed, and given time, he's shown that he can implement a certain blueprint on the team and take them in a certain direction. And fair play to him. West Ham are doing exceptionally well. And, it's not an outside shot to say that they can even make, Europe, maybe the Conference League.
Minaj is throwing digs at Mourinho and Benitez right now. Poof, poof, poof.
Listen. I'm not saying it.
Poof, poof. They haven't moved with time, man.
The thing is, you're right about Moyes. I mean, when you consider Moyes' journey from Manchester United, he just fell into a well, didn't he? He couldn't get himself out. He was just in a real problem. Continual washing cycle, couldn't get himself out. He's managed to climb out. He's found a home at West Ham, and he's almost changed his way. But he's got the players to do it, and that's the real key thing. Now, where we probably are better, their bench isn't great. So if they, if they're not winning games with their first 11, they're definitely not winning games off the bench, and I think that could help us. But if we can exploit their high line tomorrow, at the weekend. Is it Saturday we play? If we can exploit their high line, then who knows? But I think we'll need to score 2. I'm afraid.
I remember actually Ninad took something off the top of my mouth. I wanted to see when he said they're willing runners, and I was just imagining a picture of Manchester United and how they're set up in the final third of an opposition, and they're just not moving, and you're getting so pissed off because they're not. I remember we talked about this before, me and Stu. I was like, because we were talking about how everything is getting blamed on the coaches, and Stu was saying, give me an example of something the coaches should have worked on better. And I told him our wing play. So our interchange between the central midfielder, the fullback, and the winger, right, is very static, you know, like, and it doesn't happen all the time even, you know. So let's say Greenwood is out wide, right, and then Dalot is playing, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka, whatever. He'll make a run, and then he'll stop, and then Greenwood will go inside, right? But then he'll stay there, like he won't interchange. And then the central midfielder is standing there just watching both of them trying to hustle their way through the block, and he's not making a run himself. You know, so that dynamic of that triangle is not really working at all. You know, it's only like half of it is working, or one is looking at the others like, do something please, so I can, you know, find some space. So when you look at other teams, that triangle is always moving. You know, whether it's the central, it's the central midfielder, whether it's the fullback or the winger, they're always moving. So why? To move the players with them, so that they open space.
How many times do you see Antonio out wide, and then you'll see Bowen
and then you'll see Souček, and then you'll see Rice, and they're like, because they always move.
Amazing.
We don't do that. So I was just picturing Man United while you were talking, and I was like,
Andy, you find me.
Are we United fans or are we West Ham fans, guys? I'm just confused.
I have no idea.
We're a fan of football. No, I just know, but it's true though, isn't it? You know, and I've always said, you don't have to be the best players in the world, but if you play together well as a cohesive unit, you make yourself exceptionally difficult to beat, and that's why I think we'll definitely need 2 goals. Weekend to win the game. I can't see us winning.
You know, funnily enough, though, the game we lost to them in the League Cup, we played exceptionally well against their low block.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
you know, the one we lost 1-0. Like, I think Ollie at that time, he changed the entire team, and so did Moyes as well. To be fair to him, and we were a bit shaky in the first 10 minutes, and they scored a goal from it. But we controlled the entire game from that minute on until the end of the game. It's just we couldn't put it in the back of the net. It was no, but seriously though, because if you remember the players, they were the ones that actually hold possession, like I've been saying. And we were able to hold the ball from them and keep them away from it, and we created chances. It wasn't like open goal chances, but we created chances to score at least 1 or 2 goals. And if you go back 3 days, the game we played at London Stadium, away to them, we were completely beat. We weren't completely beat, but it was an open game, you know, which, you know, granted suits us a little bit because we want to counterattack, you know. But it was a very shaky, uncontrolled game. And then again, you think about it again, I'm like, okay, why was that one shaky and uncontrolled? Oh, okay. Greenwood was playing, Cristiano was playing, McFred was playing, you know, Aaron Wan-Bissaka was playing. So all the people that do not hold possession for you were playing. So it was kind of like either you counterattack and win them like that, or they're just going to control the ball from you or cause you a lot of problems.
Definitely.
So when I say I want more ball control, more board players, because I want us to control the game. Isn't that the aim? Right?
Well,
we want to.
So did Ralph, apparently.
Yeah, we want to control the game for at least 75 minutes. You know, at least.
That'll be a dream.
So if you're happy with just like 3 moments where we scored goals, 5 minutes, 5 to 10, 15 minutes, then okay, sure, keep playing the way we're playing, right? If you want to control the game for 70, 80 minutes, then I suggest we put players that can keep the ball. You know,
I agree with you. I agree. Just a quick shout out to Neil. I'm going training straight after this, so hence my training attire. Thanks.
This is the exciting inside gossip you get from this show. You get to know exactly what Stu's doing afterwards. So if that's not a reason to subscribe, then I don't know what is.
Boring you now.
But I know you do have to go, Stu, so we'll wrap up in a second. I'll leave the floor open in case anyone had anything else they wanted to say ahead of the game. I know I certainly don't.
I just wanted to say to that sometimes you need to read beyond the result, right?
Yeah.
Because yes, we won 3-1. We won Burnley 3-1, right? But the performances were really very, very shaky. And then sometimes you will lose 1-0, 2-0, but you actually controlled the game and created chances, and you were very decent, and you deserved something out of the game. Just like the saying, we stole it, smash and grab, but they actually deserve to win. So pay attention to that. Like, don't get carried away with the result and say, oh, we're now the best team in the world, and when we played like shit and we barely made it,
No, I'm with you on that. I just hope that we go with some energy and we go with that desire and that will, and then see where it takes us. But we can't. The problem is we can't afford to lose the game, because we're really going to be up against it if we do. So
we don't have a room for error anymore if we want to make top 4.
That's it, gone. Yeah, the room for error is
because I'll tell you one thing: the biggest challenge in that top 4 race isn't Arsenal or West Ham; it's Tottenham under Conte.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
They will not slow down under
Bergwijn. Yeah, Bergwijn last night. They didn't score twice in injury time, didn't they?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. They had like 2 seconds on the clock, and they scored the equalizer, and then he gave him like another 10 seconds or something like
We've
that.
We've seen that before, haven't we, lads?
And then the third goal got away. It's crazy. It was really crazy.
It's not, but that's sometimes games, turn on the head. There's one thing Moyes won't do is change his way of playing. He'll just keep pushing on and pushing on and pushing on.
I'm pretty sure he saw that how shaky we are.
Yeah,
he will try to attack, because last 2 visits to Old Trafford, he was very defensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like even the one in April, I think we played them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He
completely.
was like the biggest low block of all low blocks, and he put it down. And frankly, we won it by an own goal from one of his players. Right, there was like a corner, and they scored it on the. He put it in the back of his own net. And this is when I had an argument with Phil when we brought him on once. And I told him we're not good at breaking down blocks yet.
I was on with you that game.
Yeah, we're not yet. Like, look at all the games. We've drawn 1-1 with Fulham. We barely made it with Crystal Palace. There are still signs that we've improved a little bit than last time because we have better players. But we're still not good at breaking down low blocks. And if a team really does it against us, like really low blocking, like they don't want to attack whatsoever, they will stifle Manchester United, just like Villarreal did in the Europa League final.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he will go for that way though, because he can see how shaky we are right now and how they can just go through the team easily. So
yeah, I think he'll come and attack us.
Attack a little bit, yeah.
That's why I say we just got to put a shroud over them and suffocate them as much as we can early doors.
Yeah. Certainly we'll finish off there then. But sort of a positive note to end on, I suppose. There is hope for Manchester United, based purely on the way the other team play, nothing to do with us. But yeah, we might win a game this season. Another one, should I say? We won yesterday. Excitement, as you can tell. But
I think you know what you mean.
Exactly. But Stu, Abdul, Ninad, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Massive thank you for joining us, especially you, Ninad. More than welcome on again if you choose to accept.
Happy to see you.
Come back.
You make me sound like a villain, James. Oh my God, no, absolutely. It's really great, guys. Thanks so much.
There we go. As I said at the start of the show, check out Ninad's Twitter. It's if you like Abdul's Twitter, then you'll love Ninad's as well. It's
even more than me. You'll love the Ninad.
No.
I didn't want to cause an argument. No, I'm joking.
Nobody likes my Twitter because I don't say much on my Twitter. So.
You save your wisdom for these shows, Stu, and we appreciate it.
Exactly.
I try.
No point giving away secrets. I don't want second-hand information on this channel. But yeah. As I said, check all of these guys out. Massive thank you for watching. Massive thank you for getting involved in the comments as well. As I said, it always improves these shows, helps us with the conversation as you saw today. But yeah, stay tuned. We should have an opposition preview tomorrow. We also had a really good show go out today with a German analyst who is talking to us about Zakaria and Haidara. So that's a really good show. You should go and check that out. But yeah, stay tuned. We've got plenty of coverage of the game this weekend. If you did enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.